Hello my crafty friends, Corrine here from Corrine Crafts. I hope you are well. Here is today's card. Isn't this beautiful? This lilac and purple card all about the butterflies and the flowers. I think it is so pretty. I've really enjoyed making this. I'm going to show you how to create the matte layer out of the main embossed detail, and then I'm going to spend a little bit of time showing you how I like to make my flowers, because we're going to make this flower here. It's really easy to do. This one's out of foam. You can make yours out of paper or fabric or however you wish. So I think I should just get straight on because there's lots to show you. I saw this embossing folder from Lisa Horton Crafts and thought to myself, yeah, I've just got to get this one, because it's not very often, or it doesn't seem to me, that I find that Lisa does 5x7s. A lot of hers are 6x6s, but I do like a good 5x7 embossing folder. The detail on this, you can feel it on there, is just immense. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's a 3D embossing folder, so always to the best. And I also thought I would use some of my fantasy collection that I did quite a long time ago, and this is the Golden Sunset. I really love that. Now what I'm going to make is out of foam, so I'm going to make this lovely flower, so watch on if you want to see how to make this flower. But you could also do this out of paper as well, and it would look equally as fantastic. So let's put the flower away for a few minutes and we'll get on with the embossing folder. So as I said, it's a 5x7. Now when you get a 5x7 embossing folder, you see all the way around the edge there's a little border. So I always cut my card a little bit smaller than 5x7. Now this is just a pearlescent card, and I'm going to pop it into the embossing folder. Make sure which way is up. There we go. Put that in there. You can see that. That's just give me a little border, so it's not going to catch that white bit at that edge around there. And you can see it's just fitting, look, exactly where I want it to. Now I'm going to bring in my Gemini MIDI. It's a 3D embossing folder, so it should go through on its own. 2Ds, they have a shim. I put this through on my MIDI and found that it didn't do all the details. So I did it a second time with a piece of craft card folded in half. And let's have a quick look. Yes, it worked absolutely brilliantly. It's about learning your die cutting machine. And, you know, sometimes we follow the instructions and sometimes we just have to make some adaptations. So I'm going to take this and then I'm going to get my paper trimmer. Now what you can do is you can trim off any little bits that if you've not quite got it, if it has moved a little bit, because I don't want that edge. And I can see on this side, let's just come in here as well. There we go. Right, so once I've got it there and I've got it nice and rectangular, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a border. Now, if you've got a good set of rectangular dies, that would work as well. I could just put a rectangular die on here and cut it out. But I find a lot of rectangular dies are thin and long. So what I want is I want an equal border all the way around. So I know I don't have any dies that are going to work. So there's my 1 inch mark. So from the cutting line to there is 1 inch. I'm going to put it to 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to put the cover down. Oh, just a minute, I'm going to move that up first. I'm going to put this on the 3/4 mark here and cut down to 3/4 of an inch below the bottom. So if this is now 6.5 inches, 3/4 of an inch is 5 3/4. I'm going to spin it round, move it up to the 3/4 inch again, line up with there. Now this is just over 4.5, so it's going to go to 3 3/4. Turn it round again. Oh, I nearly put it on the inch mark then. I don't want to do that. Then we can come to here, spinning it down to 3/4 of an inch. Turn it round again, 3/4 of an inch. Now, if you want different size borders on either side, you know, like wider on the sides and slimmer on the top, then you can work that out. But look at that now. I'm just going to pop that out. There we go. So I've now got the perfect frame and my piece just there. So let's get rid of those bits. And we can now make our card up. with these. So here's my card base. I've already done a couple of bits of mats and layers. It was an 8-inch card that I've cut down. I've cut it down to 5.5 by 7.5, and then I've just cut another matte layer. So this piece is going to go onto here. So I've just done 2 matte layers on each one. Let's put that, glue that on onto there. As I always say, remember when you've got emboss, the glue needs to be enough to go into all of the emboss detail. And that's going to go on there. This is great because you can have, you could actually cut as many as you want out. I could have cut another one out of there. It's entirely up to you, you know, but I think 3/4 is quite good. So if you look, the 3/4 covers that, so it's going to be really easy to hide that, because I've got, if you look at this, I've got all of this extra bit, so it will just fit, layer up beautifully, but the pattern will run across, so it will look really, really good. So let's put on my glue on here, make sure I've got my butterflies the right way up. Aren't they gorgeous? Isn't the detail absolutely fantastic? So put that on there. Now you could have gone straight onto white, but I just wanted to do the purple as well. And then I'm just going to pop that on there. Now I'm not going to go flat because, you know me, I don't like doing flat very often. So in with the Sticks 2 foam roll. Go. And that can then go onto my card base. Look how quick this is coming together. I love embossing folders. Embossing folders just aren't used enough. Embossing folders are an amazing, amazing crafty tool that you can get so much versatility out of. I'm going to put that on here. So what I want to do is I want to line the patterns up. So I'm just looking at this and making sure like the wings line up. And you can just see, perfect. How about that? Doesn't that look really, really lovely? So we need to decorate it. Now I've done a couple of bits. I've done myself a sentiment. Now this is from a previous signature collection of mine as well. So I did the sentiment, but, so instead of just wishes, I found my Julie Hickey ones that I got, and I've taken the birthday out of there. So this is going to be birthday wishes, just like that. We need to do some other bits. I thought I could do, I've got these sort of like scribbles. I've got that one, and I've got a little bit of white left over from another project. So I might just do those just there. I'm not going to stick those down yet. I've got a few stamens. This one I've got to be careful with because I've only just put the Nouveau drops on there. So I'm going to be careful with that one. And I've also got some white leaves. So that's going to look really lovely. It's good on there. So I need a focal point. Let's make a flower before we stick anything else down. Just be careful because those could be still wet. So, as I said, I've got my golden sunset. And I got a little scrap of white foam. This is flower forming foam. I folded it into thirds and then I cut straight through with my die on there. Now, dies like this will go easily through 3 layers of foam without any problem whatsoever. So all I have to do now is separate them out. Let's move that out of the way, you don't see that. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Now it hasn't really done the embossed detail on, but it's really not going to matter because I'm going to be shaping them. I'm going to bring a mat in and I'm going to do some colouring. So I think we should use something like crushed velvet. Now what you may have to remember is it's going to look different on the foam. So trial and error, use your scrap, test some of your colours. Now I'm using a water reactive here. You could use a quick dry ink. You could use your alcohol pens. You can use distressed crayons. They all work brilliantly and give a different result. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go across the ends like this. I'm going to try and do them in the same little spot because the ink will then stay on the mat. Now I'm going to be doing a 3-dimensional flower, so I'm going to put ink on the back as well. If ever you've watched me demonstrate when I was on TV, I always advocated putting the ink on both sides of the foam when you're using making flowers, because it just works better. Now very little shaping, you know. No, I'm not finessing this. I'm not too worried about where the ink's going, because when we shape it, it'll all blend. So we don't need to blend it in at the moment. I've got lots of ink on this mat. I don't know why I'm not using that. We can just keep adding. Now look at this. The ink's coming across as different colour on the mat to what it comes across on the flower. So this is why I said do a little bit of a test to test it out. And then we'll do this one, because this one's going to be my top layer. So I do this one slightly different. So we do all of these on here. Again, like I say, we don't have to worry at all about where the ink's going for now. We just boof it on and we'll worry about the detail in a minute. So we can put that on there, that on there, and that on there. So by doing it in one place, it's meant that I've not put purple ink all over that white flower. So then the top one, bring it back in, and I'm going to bring in my Spring Meadow. So it's a green, but it's quite a yellow green. And I'm going to take it and I'm just going to pop it in the middle like that. Now, when you do the ink for the centre, you always come out a lot further than you expect. There we are. I'm just going to put it like that. You can put as much or as little on as you want. I like light greens or yellows on the centre of my flowers. Now, I'm just going to plug my craft iron in. You'll see that in 1 minute. But what we're going to do, now there's two ways you can do this. You can warm this up to begin with, but we're not going to do that today. What we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half, put 2 petals on top of each other, and then this last one, because it's a 5-petal flower, we're just going to bring to the top. So can you see I brought it in to a single petal width. Then I'm just going to pleat it, and then I'm going to twist. At this point, you can come in with more ink, and that gives it a nice, the ink will only go where it can reach, so you can get quite a pattern look. You will get mucky fingers. There's nothing you can do about this. If you're doing flowers, you get mucky fingers. If you really don't like it, you'll have to perhaps put on some gloves or something like that. So let's come on like that. And then the third one. I like 3. Now, I always used to do a smaller petal in the middle, and I don't like it. I like 3 petals of the same size. That's how I like my flowers to look. It's just a personal preference. It could be a small flower, it could be a large flower. It's entirely up to you, but I like my petals to all be the same size. But you make them how you want. Right, I'm just getting rid of that. Now, my craft iron's already warmed up. It warms up very quickly. So can you see, this is just the Sticks 2 craft iron. I've got it on the hottest setting because the ink will take it. Oh, I can feel that coming off. So just be careful. If you feel like you need to use finger protectors, then go for it. So take it screwed up, pop it on the front of the craft iron. Oh, you see that smoking? And then that'll give me a chance to twizzle it, and I can always add a little bit more ink. So this one's tried to come open, so I'm going to just squeeze it shut again. And then on the craft iron, twizzle it round. And it really does shape with it being warmed. And the last one, pop it on the craft iron and then twizzle it round. There we go. You can always just keep warming it up. There we are. Right. Let's unplug the craft iron so it's out of the way. This is where I feel like I could do with one of those little finger bowls like you get at the buffet to keep cleaning your hands. Right, so I've got rid of most of the excess ink off my hands, and I'm just going to open up the petals. Now, I'm not even going to straighten them. I'm not going to open them anymore. I'm just going to leave them like that because that's the look I'm after. You could get your fingers and you could stretch those ends open, but I don't want to. I don't want to do any shaping whatsoever. I've done lots and lots of flowers in the past where I've got my ball tool and I've stretched and I've stretched and shaped them. Now, the more you shape and twizzle, you can always come back in. The great thing about foam is it's reshapeable. The more you manipulate it, the more it reminds me of like rose petals. It's really easy to use. So I'm going to get myself a mat. Now remember, that one's the top one, and I'm going to get this. Now this is where you want a hot glue. I am going to use some 3D glue, but not for a minute. What I'm going to use is hot glue for this. So I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue in. Now remember, when the heat hits, it's going to try and shape the petals. So I'm going to put the second one on, press it down gently just to flatten that glue. And did you see how small a little blob of glue I used? Really don't need much. Then I'm going to put my top one on, just sort of stagger it a little bit more through there. Press that. And before it has time to set, I'm going to get a ball tool. I'm sort of get a medium one, and I'm just going to press. So what that's going to do is it's going to help to shape the flower, because the flower is now shaping around that ball tool, and it's also flattening out my glue, because the last thing we want is lots and lots of lumpy glue. And that will hold. That won't move now in the centre. Whilst I can reshape these edges, that bit now is set. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a blob of 3D glue. Now, we use hot glue because if I'd have used just a regular wet glue on there, as soon as I'd shaped it and let go, it would have dismantled because it wouldn't be dry quick enough. But what I'm going to do now is just about the stamens in the centre. So I'm going to pop a blob of 3D glue in. I've done these with hot glue before, but you have to work so fast. Really do. I love making flowers, aren't they gorgeous? I've got myself some stamens. I'm sure lots of you have got stamens in your craft stash. So let's line all my stamens up fairly evenly, just roughly evenly, just to try and, it's going to make it easier to work. That one's a bit high. There we go. Get a couple more. Now, if you are going to put stamens in, please put plenty in. If you don't want to use lots, then leave them out completely. 2 or 3 stamens really doesn't, in my opinion, you might completely disagree, but in my opinion, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. I remember I was doing, when I was working for a brand, and I was up at the office and I was doing a flower, and I thought, oh, this is brilliant. I've used 4 stamens, so that's like 8 ends. And I took it to the owner and I said, look at this beautiful flower. And she went, not enough stamens. Simple as that. Not enough stamens. And she was absolutely right. I went away and I sort of deconstructed it, put more stamens in, and it just improved it. Right. So they are brilliant. So I'm going to fold them in half, and I'm just going to cut the centres off. Don't cut them in half, cut some off. Otherwise they'll be too long. Now, if I'd have used a hot glue, that would now be set and I'd be stuck. So I haven't. I've used my 3D glue. Some of these are a bit long still. If they're still a bit long, don't be afraid to trim off. And it's quite nice to have them at different lengths as well. So all I'm going to do then is get my stamens. Why is that not catching? And pop them into the 3D glue. This will take a minute, so I'll stop talking so I can speed it up, but so that you can see what I do. Just going to pop them all in there. Okay, so that's all my stamens in there. Not looking particularly at its best, but I found a yellow pearl. What a large yellow pearl, but it's a really good match for my my ink. So I'm going to pop a little bit of hot glue on the back of here. I know we've got the 3D glue, but it just seems to work. I did this earlier and it worked brilliantly. So I'm going to pop that onto there, press it down, and there we have our flower. So don't forget, you can reshape the petals however much you want. And that is my gorgeous fantasy flower. Isn't that brilliant? So I've got one here that's all nice and dry. Got 2 now. Look at those. Aren't they beautiful? So pretty. And that is going to be the focal point of my card. So I'm going to pop this. I'm not going to stick it down. I'm going to pop that and that there, just so that I've got sort of proportions. So let's have a go with some 3D glue, I think, first, and we're going to stick and put a bit of 3D glue on. I just use 3D glue because I like how it moves. Let's go that way around. I've got a piece that's got poked out there, and I'm just going to pop that onto there. Now remember, don't come off the bottom of your card, because if you come off the bottom of your card, you're gonna struggle when it comes to standing it up. I've got this little piece. You can see I've cut a bit off here, so I'm just going to pop a little bit. Now the great thing is I'm using 3D glue, so I've got plenty of time to move things around. Pop that there. So I'm just going to bring my, oh, I can still see that look at that, it's just coming out brilliant. So what do I want to, I might actually stick my flower on next, and I can put my foliage. No, I won't. I'll put my foliage on next. So I've got this one. I don't know if that's the one that I've just done. So let's pop that there. Then we can pop this one here. It's just catching on there enough for now. And then we can pop this one onto here. And we can pop this one on just like that. There we go. So we've got those on there. I'm going to get my flower. I'm only going to do one flower. I know I've made two now, but I only want one. Bit of hot glue. Hot glue really is the best bet for your flowers. And then we can put that down there. And that's not caught. Let's put a bit of hot glue under there. You've got ability to move it. If things aren't sticking down, just put a little bit of hot glue on. But yeah, those are grabbed. Yeah, those have grabbed. Isn't that beautiful? Oops. Don't lift it up when it's not stuck down, Corrine. Okay, with my mucky fingers, I'm going to try and put this on. Now this is, look at this. When I designed this, this is another one, like I said, from one of my signature collections. So it's lovely to have my writing on. Plenty of space on the back for you to put your glue. Let's put that just there. And then I've got my birthday. I'm keeping the glue down there because I think the rest of it's going to come off there. Birthday wishes. Now, I may cut out a butterfly. Do I want a butterfly? Because it's got the butterfly background. I don't know whether I do. Let me lift it up and have a look. That's too busy. Oh, I don't know. No, I think that's too busy. I think that's too busy. Now, I haven't done any inking on the back of that embossing folder, and I could have done if you'd have wanted to. I chose not to. So what I think I might just do is a couple of rainbow drops, I think. Actually, those purple ones work well, don't they? Oh, so let's grab this. I'm going to use a couple of these purple ones because I think they're a really good colour match. So let's just put, I think we might need 5 of these. Just 3. Oh, that's 2. Drop that down. There's number 3. Yep. If you notice, I'm just putting them sort of mostly, not up there I haven't, but where it's quite flat. Let's do that one there. And let's do it there. There we go. Make sure they're pressed on. And that is my card. So I just wanted to show you how gorgeous this background embossing folder is. I know I've covered a lot of it up, but I've still got all those there. And it just shows how you can layer it and show how beautiful it is. And then just making it pop with a handmade flower. So easy to make. You've seen how we've made this. Really, really easy. And like I say, you can manipulate it. You can add more colour. You can add shape. It's entirely up to you. But it just feels so tactile. It's gorgeous, isn't it? I really, really like that. And just that white, instead of going in with green leaves, I've gone in with the whites, just keeping all on my colour palette. There we go. How about that? Do you make your own foam flowers? I'd love you to let me know if you do. And that is today's project. So please let me know what you think. I'd love to know. As always, I'll put a link to another video on that side. I'll see if I can find another one with some foam, if that interests you. And on this side, I will click my subscribe button if that works for you too. So until next time, my crafty friends, you take care. Thank you as always for watching, and thank you so much for subscribing with the button. Until next time, I hope you enjoy your crafting. Please share with me your makes. I love to see them. I can't wait to see what you make, and I'll be back with another video very soon. So until next time, you take care and bye for now.